Welcome to Galaxy Tenants, an Earthbound podcast from the Milky Way galaxy. My name is Jay Picard, and co-producing this episode is my wife, Carly.
Welcome back. Episode 3 will feature a conversation with Registered Nurse Jess Pace. We'll be featuring a track from Andy Thorn of Leftover Salmon, but first, a reading from Jay's 2018 article about Snug Lake in British Columbia, Canada.
Empty bullet casings from a variety of calibers clinked and clanked with every step along the shore of the aptly named Guns Lake. It was years before the hippies would roll in, at a time when the sprawling 157 acres was owned and operated by members of the infamous Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. What remains of that time are many still uncollected bullet shells, a large house, a massive lodge inclusive of a jail cell, and local lore kept alive by those who shared the region with the Angels and those who've heard the stories. With almost a decade since the bikers called Guns Lake their home, a new direction has unfolded. Landowner Robert purchased the land in 2015 with the intention of cleaning up the site and hosting an array of music festivals and events. One of the first changes came with the land's renaming to Snug Lake. Snug is guns backwards and would signify a new era for Robert, the site, and a reclaiming of a genre of music in jam. It wasn't long before the hippies and creative types began to make the trek to the site. Rob had grandiose visions of what Snug Lake could be: an intentional community, a music venue, a place to host retreats. He began to assemble his small independent team that would begin the building process. It started slowly, with the team hosting its first event in 2016, a small gathering of family and friends under the moniker Element Music Festival. The event was a success, and the rapid growth began with the return of Element in 2017. The team went all out, welcoming jam giants The String Cheese Incident, Garage Mahal's reunion shows, Steve Kimmock and Friends, and many more, with artists at large O'Teal Burbridge of the Allman Brothers Band and Dead & Company, and Roosevelt Collier. With the unexpected loss of one of the team's crucial members, Bruce, in addition to forest fires in the region and all of the typical challenges of a first-year festival, the deck was stacked against the team. Though the resulting output was an incredibly intimate experience for fans that put Snug on the map, it left Rob with a decision to make regarding the future of the projects. The choice was made to continue the building, and by the time planning began for 2018's festival, there was an influx of calculation that resulted in an equally impressive lineup to the previous year. Rob's vision of a pure jam festival continued with 3 nights of Lotus, multiple performances by Carl Denson's Tiny Universe, Spafford, Particle, and more, with artists at large Jen Hartswick and Natalie Cressman of the Trey Anastasio Band and Jason Hann of the String Cheese Incident. My time in the Great White North would span 6 weeks and would mark my longest time away from my home and my country. What better time to be outside of the States, eh? The month and a half was spent in the British Columbia interior, ripping up and down logging roads on ATVs while dodging the occasional moose or bobcat. The days were long and filled with planning, and the meals, company, and sunsets were beautiful. For the first time in my life, I had the realization that I may have found my tribe. Leading up to the peak of my trip, we explored local towns, a plethora of poutine, and came to the decision that Canada is where I felt most at home.
Next up, a conversation with our dear friend Jess Pace, a registered nurse out of the state of Michigan.
I'm here with my good friend Jess, who is a registered nurse, and you do labor and delivery, correct?
Yes, that is what I do.
What does your day-to-day look like?
So it's been interesting because my day-to-day normally would be, like before this started, just to give you kind of a baseline, you get there, we change into OR scrubs. So I don't wear my scrubs home or have to supply my own. And you change because you might have to go to the operating room at any time for like a C-section. So we're always in OR scrubs. So that hasn't changed. I know the rest of the hospital's kind of doing that now, like not wearing their street clothes home. So that is new to them, but not to me. And we used to gather at 5 after the hour and pick our assignments. You'd look at the board, see what was there, kind of, well, who hasn't had this in a while? And it was nice because if you had somebody back, well, that's all gone because you can't have 22 nurses getting in one tiny room together looking at a board. So we come in now and our assignments chose for us, which it is what it is. That's typical for nursing, honestly. And then I think it's more just every shift figuring out what's changed from the shift before. Everything happened gradually. Like I was getting 5 to 6 emails a day with, this is the new policy. Well, now we're doing this. Well, now for this can happen. Well, they can have 2 visitors. Well, now they can only have 1 visitor. Well, now their visitor can't leave. I mean, it's not my establishment's fault. It's just them literally rolling with the punches, like this is what the recommendations are for today. So this is what we're doing now. And I'd say even at the very beginning of things starting to, I don't want to say the very beginning because we kind of saw this coming, but I think a lot of us, and myself included, just being optimistic, thought it would be like when these things have previously happened, hoping it would just kind of come and go. And it sucks, but we'd not end up in this kind of situation. But masks already started disappearing. When you walk into any hospital, normally there's like a thing with hand sanitizer, tissue, and masks. All those were disappearing. They were disappearing from our supply rooms. So this isn't just like people coming to the hospital. This is people that have badges that can get in supply rooms suddenly taking masks. So my manager started putting them in offices, which we could still get them. But, you just had to say, get them.
Mm-hmm. Where do the masks go? And I've heard stories about this in the media. When somebody comes in and takes the masks, where does that end up going? Is it hoarded by that person for their family or their means? I saw one.
I would think so.
I saw one nurse say that he was giving them to homeless people in one of the articles.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I'd say a lot of them just go in the parking lots on the ground because people are slobs. But that's a whole nother battle that we're having to deal with now. But sure. I don't know if it was necessarily people hoarding, per se, but like N95 masks, if you look back, it's not like the first time I've had to wear an N95. I used to take care of patients that had TB, or like stuff like that. So like it happens. So I'm fitted every year. And that was kind of one of the shocking things. When you're fitted, they put this giant like spacesuit helmet on you and they spray something. I think it was aspartame or something. And they say, can you smell it or taste it? Well, if you can, you don't have a good fit. So it's like, and I mean, it's one of those things where I was like, yeah, whatever, it fits. Like, I know my fit is correct, but I think a lot of nurses were like, oh crap, I couldn't smell it. I just wanted to leave. Like, like not to make light of that, but just typical human beings. We're like, oh, I just want to go home. Is this over yet? And so those masks, like people just taking those in any size is like if you put that on with your beard, it wouldn't fit you. Like if you were a nurse with me, you'd actually get this like spacesuit helmet that you'd put on that has a little box with it and everything. Or like my friend had a deviated septum, so the masks didn't fit her. So she had special ones. So people like hoarding the N95s is like, do you even know you have a good fit? Is it really worth it wearing that? Because honestly, I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, but at the same time, if it doesn't fit you properly, it's not really protecting you from anything.
We found a couple of N95s in our Burning Man stash from when we go out to the desert. And the first day when I ended up deciding to go out and shop, I ended up shaving my beard off, which was a lot longer last time you saw me. And for that reason, and now it's starting to grow back. But I have thought about that. Like, yeah, it is probably better than nothing. Does it fit me? I don't know. I felt myself like moving it around on my face, like not, like before I went out to try to make sure it was snug. But yeah, I thought about that. Like when those masks disappear and like wherever they go, I wonder if they're even being put to good use or if, I guess it's hard to say.
You can test yours. Just get something smelly, go in a room that has nothing sprayed smelly, go put your mask on how you think it fits perfectly, and then have Carly come spray something around you and see if you can smell it or taste it. That's how you know if you have a good fit. That's really all they do for us. It's just they do it a little bit more concentrated with the hood, but you really could do it, in just your bathroom probably, as long as you can't smell that smell before you put it on.
Sure.
So
with coronavirus progressing, do you find any actual changes in the delivery itself, or in
oh yeah.
not necessarily the processes? Because I know that you've already explained how you can have limited people in the room and things like that. But are you seeing babies that are born with it, and what if so, what sort of procedures are put into place with that in mind?
So if I'm not there and things happen, I might hear about it, but I don't know the exacts. And I think we're doing things as, I'm not sure. I know we had a suspected that delivered, but she was negative. So I don't, honestly, it changes so fast. I don't know what the right answer to that is. Now, if mom, we'll just say an if, like as they set up policies from how I understand it right now, which this could change in 5 minutes. But we limit. So say we had a mom come in, and this is all just hypothetical. Mom comes in labor. We know she's positive for COVID. So we do have negative pressure rooms that if that's available, we have one of those on our unit. Every unit in my hospital has them, usually for TB patients, but or any kind of airborne. You can go negative, or you can keep the stuff in, or you can keep the stuff out. Like these rooms can be set up that way. So we try to keep that room available for them. And we limit it to like one doctor. There's no, residents or anything at the delivery. Usually when the baby's about to come, we have another nurse come in, and then a tech. We would just have the other nurse. Like we're trying to keep as bare bones minimum people in the room as possible. And then as far as I understand it, the NICU and or the next unit, which is mother baby, is waiting on hand, and they take the baby. So it doesn't come in contact with the mom right away. I don't know if they've I should know, but I don't know if a mom's positive, that automatically means the baby is. I don't think so, but I don't know for sure.
I don't believe so. I've heard that that is not the case. And so for that reason, I think they aren't doing the skin to skin right away.
Oh yeah, that's all. Yeah. So we get mom. So we put the baby, take the baby away, unfortunately, which is the worst thing. I mean, and I hate this title so much because it makes us sound like we weren't a baby-friendly hospital before, but we're a baby-friendly hospital. It's a title we earned. So like skin to skin is really important. We do delayed cord clamping. Like we try to keep the baby on mom's skin and not move it for up to an hour. So it really is taking away, and it is what it is. It sucks. It definitely sucks. Most of the moms have been very understanding in general about all of the policy changes, just because they just want to stay baby and they want to be healthy, but in that case, if that were to happen, I'm pretty sure that the NICU is waiting to take the baby. And just so we can, I guess, figure out, I think if mom was even waiting on a test, we would still take the baby just to the NICU to get them out of the room.
I wonder what the length of that quarantine would look like. Like, does then the baby separate from the mom for a matter of weeks? Or, how does that...
I would hope not. While I'm talking to you, I can actually look at my email and see if I've got any up-to-date policies. I pulled up my most recent email with all of our stats for the hospital because they send us those often. Delivery attendance. Yeah, here's a bunch of policies. I mean, I don't know if I'll give you, the gist here.
Sure.
So here's one of the things that I've been talking about too, like where I'm like, well, I feel bad because I feel like I'm not on the front lines, and it is what it is. Like I'm like, I'm doing my normal job, but at the same time, labor is considered an aerosolizing event. So like mom is blowing air from deep in her lungs out. She is pushing, she is screaming, she is yelling, and we're right there. So, I mean, we're really at very, very high risk if our patient is even showing symptoms during delivery, because it is, I mean, you can't be far away from your patient. They have us wearing, for delivery, they have us, regardless if it's even suspected patient, for all deliveries now, we wear a face shield and we wear a mask, just a cloth mask, but the face shield goes over like the whole face area, and then a gown. And if they are a positive or person under investigation for having it, then we wear the N95, and it's a little bit more elaborate of a setup.
With people being asymptomatic, shouldn't there be maybe N95? And I don't really know much about this, but I would think that there'd be N95 usage across the board when possible, just because of the asymptomatic aspect of COVID.
That would be them just testing everyone. I think we would really see the numbers skyrocket, because if you think, which it makes sense, if we tested, you're pregnant, let's test you for this so we know what we're getting into. But I mean, at this point right now, we're just now getting enough tests in Michigan for it to make a difference. People that have symptoms, I know people with underlying heart conditions that are, in their 30s, but they have underlying heart conditions that are showing all symptoms, have been quarantined for weeks and very sick, but not sick enough to have to be at the hospital, are not even getting tested. So I don't really know how they decide who gets tested and who doesn't at this point. I don't know if it just comes down to a numbers game, but I'd say whatever numbers you see, they're a lot higher than that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was symptomatic for a while and we did not have access to a test. So I'm hoping for the antibody test when that becomes available.
Yeah.
But I guess my
Yep.
point was, wouldn't the assumption of everybody being infected lead to a policy of N95 usage across the board as opposed to cloth masks? And how effective are the cloth masks? Because I know Carly's now making them, and I know they're asking people to wear them even when they go out of the house for a jog or whatever the case is now, and at least in this state.
Yeah, no, they are. I think I mean, the CDC, I think, is recommending if you go out for anything to wear a mask. It's just an extra barrier at the end of the day. It's just keeping it's not perfect. It's not an N95. You still want to remain at least 6 feet away from people, but it's just an extra little barrier. The N95s are really for people that have to be in that 6-foot bubble. Like respiratory therapists really are, in my opinion, the real MVPs right now, because they're the ones that are giving all these breathing treatments and having to do all these things, that's where they're literally at the most, they're getting sprayed with all of this stuff, and they are wearing, they're donning and doffing like entire N95 and everything. But for us, back to the general public, I do think that the masks are a good idea. I've been recommending like my family members to wear them out and about, because not everybody is still even mindful of distance whatsoever, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know how effective they are. I don't have stats, but I wear mine my whole shift. And as far as the cloth ones go, like my hospital right now still has paper masks. So when you come in, when I come in, they ask me if I have any of the symptoms. If I say no, they give me a sticker. If I say yes, then we go a little bit further, and they give you a brown paper bag. And inside of the brown paper bag is pretty much the worst mask ever. It's a paper mask, but low quality, lower than I'm used to using. So I have masks that we had just from previous at my house that from Andy's dad when he was sick, that I just bring one of those with me instead and swap it out. And then I just wear the cloth mask over that, which
Sure.
kind of gives an extra barrier to keep the hospital mask a little cleaner longer. And then, it is what it is. We still have masks on my unit, luckily, but I know it is dwindling. And I know that since we have 3 ORs on my unit, for C-sections, there's a closet right by the entrance to our OR that has all the surgical shields and masks and stuff. And I feel like people are starting to take that stuff too. So I don't know. We're low on supplies. We still have supplies. I don't know how long that stuff's going to last.
Have you noticed the traffic incoming at the hospital for COVID patients increasing, decreasing, plateauing? Is it easy to tell?
Oh, I've worked triage a lot for labor and delivery since this started, and there's actually been a decrease in people coming in just kind of, I don't want to say willy-nilly, but you come to the emergency room for labor and delivery in the middle of the night, you're obviously concerned about your baby or yourself, but I feel like people are saying, oh, I'm not sure, or I don't think I'm quite in labor, really waiting, because nobody wants to come to the hospital right now. Now, when you get to I work in a birthing center that's attached to the hospital. It takes me 2 seconds to walk into the hospital, but we're not one of the general floors. So we have our own triage. We have our own entrance that says family birthing center. There's a person sitting there that asks you questions for 24 hours a day to screen people before they can come up the elevators to our unit. But it's just the person that sits at the front desk. So we've definitely had people coming up coughing and stuff. I mean, it's definitely not, or it's just one person all night. So if they have to go to the bathroom,
Right. It's not foolproof.
If they show symptoms, if they show symptoms or anything like that, they get directed to the emergency room. Now, if you're coming in, I don't know what the full rules are, but if you're coming in and you're pregnant and you're bleeding or you're obviously in active labor, we're not going to send them to the emergency room. We're going to take them up. And then I think all the floors, I don't know if I know there's COVID ICUs in my hospital. I'm not sure which floors got converted, but I don't know if just all the general floors could have COVID patients or not. I don't know how they're really handling that. We're kind of in our own bubble for labor and delivery.
Do you feel like the information on policy is flowing pretty freely, or is it a kind of a guessing game at times?
I think it's flowing so freely that it's overwhelming. I just pulled up an email that I got, I think today, and it's actually different than what we just talked about for delivery. I don't. So,
Sure.
But let's see. Did I get this email? This talks about the town hall, and I got this email. Actually, it was from a couple days ago, but this is the most recent on policies. So when the pediatrician does not have to automatically be there, just because the mother's positive. Let's see, but they should be present outside of the room just in case if it is a positive mother, because if the baby does need, basically they're saying pediatricians should be standing outside the door if we think that they're going to be needed. at delivery, and because it takes so long to don PPE, but they don't have to be in the room. So they're like right there and available, but it's keeping people out of the room because the baby could come out totally, vigorous and not need anything.
Carly and I, we've been talking about getting pregnant, and she, we're working at it, but we've kind of come to a standstill, at least until the next month plays out, just to see how the Apex works in all these hospitals. Do you know, are they recommending right now that people try to get pregnant, try to conceive, try to have babies? Is it a dangerous process at this point, or are the risks all kind of mitigated based on the best work that we can do on the front lines? Or
I don't know the answer to that, just because I know, the big, I don't want to say joke, but the big no, it's a joke that goes around like the labor and delivery community right now is I can't wait to get all that extra overtime in December when all these COVID babies come around because everybody's bored and banging. But that's kind of so that's, I feel like anything you just hear, like, we're like, oh, job security just is going to be. So I think that, I don't know that they're not telling people to try to get pregnant. I don't know if this is true. This is not coming from my profession by any means, but I have heard that because we're limiting non-essential like doctor's appointments and stuff, like people that are in fertility treatments right now, I think that's all kind of on pause.
I know IVF
but I don't know if that's everywhere. I don't know if that was okay. I was gonna say I had heard that people that are in that process right now, where everything just kind of came to a standstill as far as that goes. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's necessarily because they're not trying to get people pregnant, or if it's because they can't be having coming in for the office visits and all of that as much, like just trying to limit the amount of people coming in and out of offices.
Sure.
Because you can only do so much over the phone.
Right. What's the most challenging part of your job, and not necessarily in regards to COVID, just overall? What do you find to be the most challenging part of your job?
Trying to right now, so the most challenging part of my job, I think right now, is just trying to still make this fun. Like, people are coming to have a baby. That's the end of the day. Like, you're coming in, this is a big life event. I don't care if it's your first baby or 10th baby. Like, my job in general, even when there's not a pandemic, is to try to say, because I'm one of those people, like, even if I don't like you and you don't like me, I'm going to put that aside and make sure that I can make this a good experience, because it is not about me. And I try my best. I don't, there are occasionally patients that just think I'm being fake at that point and still don't like me, but that's going to be anywhere. Because every kind of person has babies. But I think right now it's them coming in and trying to ease their mind and let them know, like, I know the world is a mess out there, but that doesn't matter right now. Right now, you're going to have a baby. And regardless of what that means, like, that's what I try to bring it around, like, just crack a lot of jokes, try to make it like a light atmosphere, make people feel at ease. Sometimes I admitted a patient the other day and her husband was just a mess. He was so scared, and I don't blame him, so I literally sat down and just basically told him every single thing that I was going to do and my staff was going to do to try to keep them as safe as possible. And he fell asleep after. So I felt like that was a good sign, because he was able to take a nap. It was like 3:30 in the morning. So I was like, maybe I was able to like ease his mind enough that he could actually relax, and, they both actually were able to get some sleep. So I think that's the challenge right now that I face the most, is just still trying to make this what it is, which is somebody bringing a baby into the world, not, oh, there's a pandemic, oh, this terrible thing, or, blah, blah. None of that matters when you're literally trying to welcome a life. Like, I just feel like that's the hardest part right now, because I do go to work crying. I do not want to be there. I do feel like I'm not doing enough. And then I'm also scared because I'm there, like, it's back and forth. And so I think that being able to just come in and turn off my stuff and try to just focus on them has been hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm a little teary-eyed right now just from you saying that. But I do want to say you're like the perfect person for this job. Even throughout our friendship, you've always made me laugh, made me feel better, made me feel comfortable, and I've always looked to you as that kind of a friend. And that's the people whose baby that you're helping to birth. I mean, they're so lucky to have you in that room, in that situation. Nobody better.
Now you're gonna make me cry.
I do. My eyes are all teary just as you said. But all right. Well, let me ask you this then. What's your favorite part of the job? What do you absolutely love about what you do?
I love baby care. I love taking care of the babies. I mean, once they're there, I mean, I love, I like the laboring, especially if I connect with the mom, but you can ask anybody in the unit, like, I'll volunteer to stay free just so, because I know there's going to be a baby born soon, and you get sent in to like do transition care. So as soon as they come out, you get vitals on them, and you're the one that gives them their shots, and you mess with them and, make sure they're doing okay. And I really enjoy that. I mean, it's fun checking them out, seeing what they look like, them giving you dirty looks. Like, how overwhelming. You were just in a warm pool, totally fine, getting fed through an umbilical cord. And now there's this loud woman with a very deep voice talking to you. I always say, I wonder if the babies get PTSD from me. Like if I was at the grocery store and like ran into somebody, I'm like, oh, and they're like, oh, you were my nurse. And their baby would just start crying when they heard my voice because I'm like literally irritating them. I'm giving them shots. I'm poking up. I'm just, trying to make them cry, get the fluid out. But I do wonder that often. If a baby heard my voice, they'd be like, it's her.
I love you so much. I'm so grateful for your friendship. I'm so grateful for the work you do. And again, there's nobody better to do that job than you. And anybody would be lucky to have you doing that job for them. So
thank you.
I'm so grateful for you taking the time to do this with me. Is there anything else you want to mention or talk about before we cut it?
I think that one thing that I would like to mention just from my standpoint is just there's a lot of people that are really upset by like the policies that have been going out across the country for delivery as far as limiting it to just the spouse. And I know that's really hard. I know that doulas are very important. And if you had a doula for your whole pregnancy, it is awful that all of a sudden we're saying, well, it's your husband or your doula. But I just hope people realize that we're not doing that to be mean. It hurts us too. We don't want, I love that doula being in the room. They're helping with position changes. They're vital to what's going on. And they know the patient, they're connected. So for us to have to say they can't be there, that sucks. Like, we don't want to do that. I want them there. They help me. but right now that's just the best that we can do. And luckily we're still allowing the spouse or a support person. It doesn't have to be the spouse, but one person to come in. They can't come and go. They're there at the hospital for the whole thing. They don't get to go like wander the hospital or anything, but that's, right now that's the best we can do. And hopefully people, for the most part, have been understanding because they want healthy baby, healthy mom. And that's the goal at the end. So yeah, I would say just be patient with us. And we know it's frustrating how quick things change, but it's frustrating for us too. And we're doing the best we can.
The song you just heard was Tornado, courtesy of Andy Thorn. A huge thank you to all of the essential workers on the front line.